Hello, and welcome to Over the Cushion Podcast. What's going on, everybody? For Rip the Lip, this is Ron Thoman, and this is Kyle Hervey. And you're watching Over the Cushion, presented by MCM Contracting, our new sponsor, serving the Lehigh Valley for 33 years, owned and operated by Mark Daniels. This show is all about dirt track racing, and we cover news, current events, talk to different drivers, and just everything about dirt racing. Tonight's a little bit different with our guests, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. What's going on, Kyle?
What's going on, Ron?
There's two Kyles today, but
you're surrounded by Kyles.
I know, it's crazy. There's not enough Monster Energy drink to go around. So what's going on, man? How's your week?
My week has been chaos. Every night we were working on getting the TQ ready.
Yes, sir.
Practicing for Turkey Derby yesterday at Wall Stadium. It did not go as I wanted it, but I'm gonna work on a new setup this week and hopefully be better come next Saturday, because we were not fast.
Yeah, well, you just got to keep getting. I mean, that's racing, right? You sometimes you're not fast. You just got to keep working harder than the next guy to get a little faster.
Well, yeah.
Hopefully.
I mean, nothing comes easy in racing. So
never.
Just gotta, we got a lot of input from a lot of different people who know what they're doing. Hopefully, it starts turning things around for me soon.
Gotcha. All right. Well, any races you watched this week? Any news or anything that?
I was watching some midget racing. Was that at Placerville?
Yeah,
the
Hangtown
100.
I guess
I watched Kelly Bryson rip the lip to, I think, a heat race victory on one of the prelim nights, and that was pretty badass. And then I also saw the clip of Jade Avedizian doing the same thing and got pinched by, I think, Tanner Carrig, and went for a huge ride.
Yeah, that was the kind of
walked across the whole track, gave him a fist bump, and then walked away, which confused me a little bit. But I don't know if that was like, hey man, it's a racing deal sort of fist bump, or I don't know what to do now that I'm over here. I'm tired from walking all the way over here. I'm going away. I really don't know what that was. If somebody came over after I just put him in the fence and gave me a fist bump, I don't know what to think.
Like, what would you feel? But like, she definitely doesn't think it was a racing deal because they interviewed her the following day, and
I did not see that.
So if you watch the full clip, like she's running on the back straight. She's just running the top. She's in the, like, as far up as you can go. And the Tanner dude went from the bottom of the racetrack all the way to the top.
Yeah.
Took her nose off, and it kind of got him squirrely going in. And I think that like he lost his temper or something, because then she just like she was running the outside and just doing her thing, and he just like drove right into her.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know. It wasn't really a cool,
she was like
cool deal.
She's like, I slide him, and then we were running side by side, and he just turned right. And I think she's like she pretty cooled off on the walk over there, but she was just like, I forget what she said, but it was more like I'm not gonna go over there and start throwing fists or freaking out. But it was definitely, and then when they interviewed him, no empathy, nothing, like didn't like think he was in the wrong at all. He's like, well, she doesn't run up front all the time, and she doesn't know how we race. So, like, usually, he said, like, if she slides him, she's supposed to go underneath him to slide him again, cross back under him.
I don't know.
Like, she had a pretty big head of steam going. It's like, what? Where?
I get that. I get what he's saying, what he's getting at, but
sure.
After watching it from out of the car, what he did was just,
it was pretty
stupid on his part. It was not a clean move.
It was honestly, I think it was more or less he wanted to squeeze her and like run her out of room. I don't think he like wanted to like flip her. You know what I mean? I don't think that's ever the like intention. I think it was more of like squeeze you out of racing room and then like pass you. Yeah, but he just definitely just was like ran out of talent really quickly like there, because like even on the one clip you can see from there's a guy on turn 4 with the camera, like you could see sparks from their rims touching.
Oh, I bet.
Like as soon as they connected, it was like a perfect unison.
It was pretty heavy contact for going in a straight line. So.
Yeah, he's like, I was just trying to get up to the top to get in the racing groove, and I'm like, there's a car there, bro. Like you can hear him.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess that's the only exciting part of this week. I think it was pretty stupid. Mike McLaughlin, he's saying that was definitely a great job putting me in the wall fist bump.
Yeah. The only other race I watched was I attempted to watch the last 38 laps of the late model race at Florence last night, and I ended up just going to sleep, honestly. I don't know what was happening in that race. I don't know I think it was a 400 lap race. I don't know what happened for the first 350 laps. Dale Jr. was running up front and then like got sent to the back because he got into somebody.
Yeah, I think he misjudged this is his first time in a late model in how many years? I think he misjudged, tucking up into behind somebody, but once he got connected on their right fender, it's kind of like just sent him.
I have no idea what was happening.
But they were like,
that
"You're
race.
penalized. You're penalized."
They were just sending everybody to the back. I watched a grown man wreck what looked like a 7-year-old kid on the straightaway and destroy his car. I saw another video clip of a guy come down pit road with his hood slammed against the windshield. Then I have no idea what the context was about a guy that parked in Victory Lane on with 10 to go and celebrated. I don't know what that was after they tried to
what is going on? It's like an actual street stock, like a dirt street stock race. It's the most entertaining thing ever.
What's funny is my buddy Nick Del Campo spotted there before, and he was telling me last night how small the spotter stand was, and then he found a photo of it. The spotter stand is made of wood on top of the tower, and it is super tiny, and there's a scaffold, not even a scaffold, but a second row behind the front row of spotters to stand on, and then there were people just sitting with their legs dangling off the side of the roof because there were so many spotters up there. It was the most absurd thing in the world.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't even watch that race, let alone imagine what it was like to actually be racing through that. There must have been 10 cautions in the last 30 laps.
Jeez, man. Sounds like a dirt street stock race to me. Honestly, it sounded like they were running dirt rules. If you spin somebody, you're in the
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. But that's pretty much all the racing that's going on.
Yeah, man. So I'll let you take control for this one. This is your good
Yeah.
buddy here, and
Yep.
yeah, you can take it away, man.
Yeah, definitely. So today our guest is going to be Kyle Taraska. He's one of my competitors in the ATQ MRA racing outdoor with the TQs the last couple of weeks. He's also the VP of the club, and he is the newly crowned champion. So welcome, Kyle.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for referring to me as one of your buddies. That's a sign we haven't been racing together long enough yet. It's only been a couple of weeks, so.
Well, I'm not nearly fast enough to rub wheels with you yet, but next season, hoping to be up there, and maybe we won't be buddies come this time next year.
Yeah, that would be the most ideal. Listen, I mean, but that's what it's about. Like, I had an interview the other day, and I talked a lot about, my teammate Joey, and, we talk about that a lot, where it's like you have to be able to separate your friendships from outside of the track, because what happens on the track happens. But, we want everyone in the series to be competitive and be successful. And, I know we were talking a little bit before we went on air. Definitely want to hear a little bit about how your practice went. We could talk about mine, but I didn't feel like we learned really anything at practice for Turkey Derby these last couple of days. It was just so cold, and it was hard to get grip in the tires. And then, of course, when we were there yesterday, we had a good old 2-hour delay for someone. I think their throttle got stuck, unfortunately. It was legit a scary wreck, but
Total bad car.
yeah, it was dead, man. Like the car was gone, and thankfully the driver was okay, but that guardrail was just destroyed. And I felt like any heat that we were building up into the track, it just all went away over that break. And I just felt like, and you could attest to this too. I just felt like we never really got a fair shot yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I only got to go out for practice 2 rounds, and I learned nothing other than we're slow, and we need to make some major improvements if we're going to even be competitive. Yeah, I don't even know where to start.
Well, I mean, we talked a little bit, and I mean, not that we want to get too caught up on like setup stuff, but I mean, those Lafleur chassis, when they're built for indoors, it's a totally different animal indoor compared to outdoor. So,
Yeah, definitely.
I think some of the stuff you're talking about was wheelbase, but I mean, you'll get it. I mean, Lafleurs have ran outdoors before. There are a couple of Lafleurs in the series, and listen, they're great cars. They're great chassis. Mark Lafleur builds an incredible car, but it's just it takes a different dynamic to get them to be hooked up outside compared to inside on those concrete hockey rinks.
Yeah, definitely. But hey, why don't you tell us about a little bit about you? Have an interesting story about how you got started racing. It wasn't as early as myself. You started a little bit later on in life, so why don't we tell everyone about that?
Yeah, it's I mean, we could sit here, I think, for the next 2 hours. I think I could talk your ears off and talk about my story, but definitely more unique, I would say, than the general racer. And I mean, really, at the end of the day, I just feel like I'm just a race fan living every race fan's dream. Really, been very lucky, been very fortunate. Try to remain humbled of that, and I feel like I do. I want to make sure everyone who's helped me along the way, they do feel appreciated. But it actually started, believe it or not, at a minor league baseball park. So the Somerset Patriots in New Jersey. Yes, I basically that was my summer job, and they had like a NASCAR night type of theme. And at the NASCAR night, so a few years, up until a few years ago, there was this racing program or school at Wall Stadium, Green Flag Driving Experience, and they had an advertisement there, and they were basically like, they had like a Twitter contest, like the baseball team, and it was like, tell us why like you deserve like to get like this, these free laps or something like that. And I'm just like, oh crap, like this is my chance like to get behind the wheel, right? So I mean, I never really wanted to do like I didn't really know where to start, but I just felt like doing something like that at like Wall, and kind of like the way like hell was advertised. I felt it was a more realistic scenario. I mean, one, just to get involved, and two, of like my surroundings. Like, what am I going to learn just being a fan, going to like Rusty Wallace Driving Experience and like running like laps around Dover at like 80 miles an hour, right? So you're not going to learn anything. But basically, I did that a couple of times, and I started volunteering with them, and just made connections and, volunteered with them. And then I was able to start racing for a gentleman called Blue Mets, and who's now with another TQ racing division. Hope to be racing again with him soon, but not for him, but, with him, part of our organization. But um, nonetheless, he gave me an opportunity to drive his car, ran that for a couple years, and then eventually moved on to, I was teammates with Buddy Slode, our president and series president, raced for his owner, Colin Martin, in the 16 car, which you mentioned Nick Del Campo before. He actually wrapped that car when I had Berkeley College sponsorship. So that's pretty cool there. And, definitely an awesome looking car, but ran with them for a couple of years. And that's in 2018. That's when I got my first career win at Wall, and, earned Rookie of the Year that year. And then eventually, through my friendship with, Joey Bailey, started racing for his dad, Russ. And, that's something that, honestly, from a racing standpoint, and really for many reasons as well, but, one of the best things ever happened to me was Russ Bailey calling me to drive his race car. He's the only person to ever do that, where all before this, it was me having to work my way in and ask the questions and get denied or get the thumbs up, right? So, been racing for Russ Bailey and Lenny Boyd here since end of 2018, really 2019, I guess, middle of 2019. And then we had the COVID year 2020, which didn't really count. We just ran like a handful of races, but really 2021 and this past season were like my first two like full-time seasons running in the ATQMRA. My rookie year, I only ran really the wall races. So definitely running with these guys and Lenny Boyd and out of the Boyd Speed Shop, and being teammates with Joey have just taught me so much. And there's so many other people along the way who've helped me too. Like, think about guys in the series, like, Jeff Cott, one of our other competitors, he's helped me all along the way. Like, he's just one of those guys that, would help me get to the racetrack when I was driving a 16 car too. So, there's so many people who have helped me along the way. Definitely not a one-man band, and I'm definitely not someone who was born with a wrench in my hand. So my lack of mechanical experience has certainly hurt me in some regards, but it's been a heck of a learning experience. And like I said, between Russ Bailey and Lenny Boyd, for sure, Lenny's wife Donna, they're incredible positive influences in my life. Frank and Johnny, two of my crew members. I mentioned Joey, and then certainly my wife Megan for sticking with me through all the ups and downs in this too.
Yeah, definitely.
That's amazing. But yeah, so I am completely. I don't know anything about these cars. I've only seen them at, those indoor stuff. I'm just kind of pulling up the ATQMRA, which is also a mouthful, but I'm pulling up the
It is.
I'm pulling up the what's it called? The
website
here. Yeah, sorry, I can't
Good
figure
job,
out my
man.
words. I got
we're here to help you.
I got it. Yeah, so
Hey, I am.
I got it up on here. Just a little video clip, which is kind of cool. Just if you would want to just kind of explain what a TQ is and kind of if you have any history knowledge on where they kind of came from and how popular they're getting.
So basically, I think in simple terms, these cars are crotch rockets. They're motorcycles with a roll cage around them, kind of. So we run 750cc Suzuki motorcycle engines, and then the cars, they weigh with the driver in them. The minimum weight's around 850. I think we're all a little bit heavier than that, but I mean 850 is the weight with the driver. Really where these cars stem from. So the history of this organization goes back nearly 70 years to this point. Pine Brook Speedway, which was in Caldwell, New Jersey. Unfortunately, that track is now a Home Depot, but that is really for the longest time, well before mine and Kyle's time, was the home of the ATQMRA for a very long time. And but really these cars and how they're built right now, like with the left side engines, I think a lot of where they're based out of is more so the super modifieds like that you see out of Oswego, just smaller versions of that. But they're fun, man. And I hope Kyle could attest to that as well. I mean, they're probably, like I said, it's 850 pounds with the driver. Horsepower is about 150 pounds or 150 horsepower with us in it. So, these things move, Kyle's first race at Waterford this year, he picked a heck of a track to debut in a TQ midget, because that is by far our fastest track.
Go big or go home.
It's big, man, and I'm glad you didn't go home. I'm glad you didn't get scared. So
I did get scared the first lap of the feature with Brianna spinning in front of me and four-wheel sliding straight to the fence.
Yeah, that was definitely a wake-up call. I'm glad Brianna was okay in that, and I'm glad you were okay as well. And no one really got any damage out of that. I mean, I think she was done for the rest of the race, but she practiced today, and she still had the same wing on it. Like, they were able to
really,
bend
it back and run it.
Yeah, and it looked fine. Like, honestly, you would never know. So, but no, man, like they're awesome cars. They are the only cars that I have ever driven, and it kind of goes back. It's just kind of how it all happened, back to that green flag driving experience. Like, that was the main, I guess, car that they would run in that experience was the TQ midget. So I was just always like, that was, again, the only car I ever drove. I never, and then those were just people like in this, I don't know, industry, or just this culture, or the group of people in the TQ midget community. I've just always been able to surround myself, and there was never like this dream of just like, oh crap, like, man, like, I mean, I always thought the cars were cool. Like, they were honestly always some of my favorites on Turkey Derby Saturdays, but there was never like this like lifelong like accomplishment of dream of like, man, I can't wait to run one of those cars. Things just kind of happened, and then as I got more involved in it and kind of just dug deeper and learned more about the history of the organization, the history of the cars and everyone else, and just really fell in love with it. And I think they're awesome cars. I think they're fun. I think it's a great division because you get to tour a little bit. Like, we have our home track at Wall, but we just talked about Waterford. We race up at Evergreen, so like, it's cool to be able to get to travel, but also get different experiences behind the wheel as well, just with different tracks, with different characters. And and like at Wall, like, it's literally like that bottom track, it's like our own like little Martinsville. But then you go to a place like Waterford, and it's almost like our Talladega. So it's cool. Yeah, for sure.
Well, like, so I have this picture pulled up, and is it if you can see it, is this a TQ, and why are the suspensions I guess on different
well, you picked a terrible picture, but not because it's terrible. I mean, that is Mike Turton. He's one of our new guys, and he is an awesome guy. He was practicing today. He's honestly one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in your life. But the picture itself, so yes, that is a TQ midget. Basically, that's just that car backed out of the trailer, and just the way how the wing brackets are sitting right now. And we all kind of have our own. That's the cool thing I think about these cars. And I think it's one of our coolest aspects, and it's also something that hurts us where, like, for example, like with Kyle, like running like the 600, right? Like, you could almost go to Hyper and order a car, and you're good to go, where we don't really have that. We do have chassis builders out there, but there's not like, and Hyper has a lot of compatible parts for our cars, but each car is kind of its own little, like, it's like an outlaw class. It's like they're like roadsters,
really
like
that's great. Like, you just like build, like, run what you can build. That's kind of like old school, kind of like with all the old dirt modifieds and stuff. And you make the open motors and just like, who's got the most horsepower. But it's also got a quick change on the back too.
Yeah, so that's why the shocks are offset like that. So the one shock is mounted on top of the quick change. A lot of us run it with a bracket either on the side, since it's so far offset. Basically, it's a micro sprint axle that's slid into I think it's a 7 or an 8 inch quick change.
I thought it looked weird with the coils.
Yeah, so with the diff being offset like that, there's no place other than on top of the rear to mount that left rear shock, and then the right rear shock is in a more normal position. So that's what you're looking at there.
Kind of, do the micros have quick changes like this?
No, we run chain drive. So this has a drive
you're right.
shaft.
Oh man, we should.
So
you think they would ever put a drive shaft in a micro?
They can't because the way the motor's sitting. So the motor compared to a micro to a TQ is rotated 90 degrees. So the output shaft of a micro
back.
Is pointed straight back. So you can basically bolt up a yoke and have a drive shaft. Whereas on the micro, it's coming out the other way. So you have to put a gear on it so that it can be chain driven.
Oh, well, I mean, they're both street bike motors. I would think like it's possible, right? Like that's a possibility, or am I just kind of just reaching?
Nah, I don't know, because you have to mount the motor the other way in the micro, and there's not really a way to put it in there. But as you can see,
that would be some cool like Frankenstein type like experiment.
It would be Frankenstein.
It would be so cool.
I mean,
they wouldn't let you run it, but it'd be sweet.
We do race with not really as much in the outdoor stuff. A couple guys that have like the hyper hugger style stuff that run chain drive, but indoor, there are guys that come out of the Midwest like Fort Wayne. They run 636s, and they will run a micro motor with a chain drive the same way we'd have it in a micro with the TQ stuff.
Oh, okay. Just flipping through. So what is that? Is that also a TQ? Any of these like style would?
I think everything on there is going to be that. I saw a Legends car in there.
Yeah, find
44?
There's another out. There's more albums on there with more
okay,
local stuff.
yeah.
Our photographer, he goes to the track and like he focuses on TQs, but like in between
he's snapping
rounds,
all the pictures.
Yeah, he obviously he needs to find himself to some entertainment, so he likes to post
funny.
every other division. Dude, I mean, there's some good. Listen, like I think our photographer Sean Case, I think he's one of Wall Stadium's best kept secrets. Like these modified divisions, they ain't got a clue. Like there's some badass pictures of their stuff online right now. And who would think you'd have to come to our website to see it? But they're there.
So any of the ones that have this same style right here, like
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so these are all TQs. So I'm kind of
I mean,
recognizing.
if you want more like if you want more fun facts, like that last car you looked at, like that was a 13-inch wheel. A couple of those. The 76 he just pulled up, that was a 10-inch, but it's hard to tell in the picture. But we do run two different types of wheels, 13-inch and 10-inch. And
so you really give the driver like access to like do as much as they want, almost like you can really customize these suckers.
I mean, Kyle, you'd be able to put a little bit more information. It's basically down to what compound tires we run and what wheel sizes, but there's two different options, so you can still choose from a handful of things there. The engine isn't really allowed to have any work done to it, and it has to have all the gears. And then there's a weight rule and like just size rule for the wing and like the wheelbase of the car, and that's pretty much it. Everything in between those rules is, more or less have at it.
Yeah, because I'm looking at, I can see the rim sizes are different. Is the tire diameter different in some of these cars?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about between 10 and 13 inch.
13.
Yeah, so that's a 13 right there, and if you go back to the 76, yeah, it's a 10. So
gotcha. Yeah,
there's there's advantages and disadvantages to both. I think that's where Kyle and I were kind of debating this the other day when we were talking to each other, and he's like, no, like 13 inches better. And I'm just like, well, I think 10 inches better, and but I it's funny because I don't want to talk bad of Kyle, but I mean, we went out for the last round of practice yesterday, and I cut around in front of him because I wanted him to follow me to see the line, and I'm just like, hey, how'd you do? And he's like, you fucking left me by a mile. Sorry if I cursed, but
you do whatever you want, man. That's
great. So good, no filter.
But
on a serious note, I mean, there are like the 10-inch, just because there's more. Just with the smaller circumference of the tire, like the diameter, like, they are going to build heat in them faster. So like they tend to be a little bit better on restarts. You kind of get, you fire off a little bit better usually with a 10-inch car compared to 13. But, but usually, but usually on a 13-inch, like you want more tire at a Waterford or a Mahoning, where there's a lot more loads on the car as well. Like we're definitely more prone to blisters, especially on the right rear on the 10-inch guys. But I mean, if you get the setup right, like you can figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, like the blistering thing comes down to the difference is the 10-inch has to rotate so many more times over than the 13-inch would, so it builds heat a lot more, and that's one of the differences. I think honestly, like a lot of the 13-inch stuff comes from indoor, and I think that is just the fact that you can wheel somebody without getting your wheels. The 10-inch is more likely to get stuck somewhere, whereas the 13 you're kind of going to bounce off whatever you're hitting. It's more the size of the rub rail and everything.
Well, that and another thing really too with the 13-inch is you are able to run bigger brakes on the front.
That's true.
Just because we just don't have that is the one area where, and I'm not here to give away all my secrets to Kyle, but
we're trying to get them out of you. Don't worry, we're trying.
That is the one area where I feel like I do get beat, especially at a place like Wall. Like I just can't throw it in as deep as some of these guys. I mean, I could, but like I think I have to pray a little bit harder than some of those guys that do. So, But no,
Listen,
I like to like basically. I mean, to the brake assembly that I have on the right rear, because as here we don't have any brakes on the left rear, but the braking that I have on the right rear of my car, that assembly, Kyle has that on his Lafleur car on all three corners, so on both fronts and the right and on the right
yeah.
rear. Where I just have that on the right rear. So that's another thing too. Where like when you consider a track like Wall, where
Mhm.
it's almost road course type stuff, where like you kind of got to really throw it in and brake on the straightaway and get it to rotate. So the bigger the brakes, the better. But I think just from a balance standpoint and just from taking off on restarts and stuff, it literally, and that's the fun part of it. Like you could look at a 13-inch car, you could look at a 10-inch car, and kind of go back and forth and debate. Everyone kind of has their opinions, but we're able to figure out where it's compatible, and guys, I don't really think overall there's one that's better than the other, but I'm very content with our 10-inch program.
Yeah, like
So
allowing. Oh, sorry. Just like
no,
allowing
go ahead.
drivers to have that, um, agency. So my background is I watched a lot of racing. I've raced a little bit, but as far as my background is like gaming and especially card games, giving a player in quotations, I guess, the more options to what to do, the outcomes will be, kind of spread out a little bit and see who's better and who's not. So like, I kind of like that you guys give, wheel options and different brake options and all this different stuff that you can debate and go back and forth. And it's actually really cool because then you don't know what's like the best. If you go to like a class like a crate sportsman, everyone's got the same motor, same shocks, basically same, all these classes that try to kind of dumb it down to be like everyone has the same stuff, like slingshots or dirt
Yeah.
slingshots. Then it's kind of more tweaking stuff, I guess. I guess Kyle would be more apt to comment on that. But I mean, coming from a class like a slingshot where like everyone has the same stuff basically, to a class where like you have so many options and so many ways to like find speed. I just find that super cool. Like I'd like to see that more, honestly.
Yeah, I like that as well, and that's one of the draws to for me to get to the TQ stuff is being able to do whatever you want really, and there's the box you have to play within is so vague that I mean, when I first started talking to Kyle about coming to run the ATQ MRA stuff, I was telling him I was trying to figure out how to make the car fast, and every morning I'd sit there and reread the rule book because I had it on my kitchen table, and I'd sit there and eat
He
breakfast.
about built a full on IndyCar in our text message conversation.
I believe it, man.
Oh yeah, maybe I got to take a few steps back and not reinvent the wheel, and maybe I can figure out how to make a corner without spinning out or pushing through it first, and then I can slap the IndyCar body kit on my car.
By all means, but you listen, and you're talking about like the disparity and like differences in cars too. I mean, a cool fact about my car. So, our championship winning personal comfort car the chassis was built in 1988. So, and obviously there's been a lot of work done to it, since then. But so the car was built in 98. I was born in 93. If that kind of paints any pictures for you, but no, there's no, it's one of those things like with these cars, like, I mean, outside of just like the wheelbase, the chassis doesn't mean as much as it does like the equipment you're putting on the chassis. So, and it's cool. Like I think that's what helps make our clubs and our organization so unique, and I think that's what helps create some of the great racing that we see. But but like you were saying before, Ron, like like it would be awesome to see more of that, but certainly it definitely creates a higher barrier of entry. So, but once you're in and you're competitive, so that's my old car. Maybe
Oh, the
maybe
Chick-fil-A car,
well,
baby.
that is the championship winning car, but that's not the right sponsor. That's my old sponsor, Chick-fil-A.
Oh,
Man,
okay.
that was fun back in the day. Man, I get chicken sandwiches at the track. My team loved me. I think that's how I ended up getting
Bringing
my
the
ride.
catering, baby.
That's
Yeah.
why Russ Bailey asked me to drive his race car because he knew he was going to get chicken sandwiches out of it. So
I would. I'd be like, bring extra Chick-fil-A sauce, please.
Yeah, that's awesome. You didn't bring that back. I'm hungry.
Yeah, with the wing, I just have one more question before Kyle he's gonna take over. With the wing, I noticed they don't run it indoor. Do you think that would be a cool addition if they ran the wing indoor, or is that just not possible?
I don't think it's possible. I mean, I don't at that point. Like, I just feel like the wing. It's not at that speed. I can't imagine the wing is going to make any sort of difference. Aerodynamically.
Yeah.
I feel like Kyle here, he'll figure something out to make it stick better to the concrete. But no, you really can't on the indoor scene. I mean, the tracks are just so small. It's too tight. I mean, me personally, I do like the wing. Uh, Not running the wing indoors would not stop me from wanting to run
Yeah.
indoors, but I definitely feel like outdoors. I mean, because our speeds are not that much faster,
Hmm.
with the wing compared to without. And especially like at a bigger track like Waterford, but even in a track like Wall, like it does make a big difference. And I mean, I know personally, unfortunately, I mean, I kind of left this out of my quick Spark Notes version of my up and comings, but first time I ever drove a TQ on the bottom at Wall was a Turkey Derby practice. So we I think we just passed the anniversary of it, but for the longest time, I was the only driver to run laps on the bottom and then wreck on the top because I got loose off of turn 4 and I hit the banking and I basically slid up like Evil Knievel and I went for a pretty bad tumble. Where now it's funny because a couple of years, well, it's not really funny, but a couple of years after that, in Turkey Derby, there was actually another driver, and it all happened like a couple cars in front of me. I saw it all, but he basically went off, got loose, and kind of went up the banking like I did. But he had the wing on at that time. So once he got on his side, he went sliding. And I'm a very big advocate of, I feel like the wings are a safety enhancement for us outside. So that's definitely something that I would like to see continue with the organization for a long time to come. It is a different challenge, especially for, Kyle with like his Lafleur chassis, because they're not really built to have wings on them. It's not part of their DNA, but I definitely feel like the wings have a place. There's other TQ organizations out there, who put on great shows, and listen, the cars are safe. I don't have anything bad to say about anybody, but I think they have a different viewpoint on wings compared to me,
Hmm.
and the people in our organization. But I definitely think it's I think it still puts on a great show. I think it's a great safety enhancement, and honestly, it makes our series, I feel like, more marketable too. Like, not only just from sponsors, but especially like we keep talking about Wall because we got Turkey Derby coming up, but it's not like some of these tracks are the best lit tracks at night, and
Hmm.
especially at a track like Wall where the lighting's more so on the banking than it is on the bottom. It's not that we can't see, like we can see fine. It's safe for the drivers, but it does get a little bit difficult, like for the fans and the grandstands, to kind of see our cars go down the backstretch a little bit. But it's definitely a lot easier for them to tell who's who, even for the tower race control too, down the backstretch with the wings on compared to them not being there.
Yeah, definitely agree. I personally, I don't like the wing. I like feeling the car step out from under me going through the corner, and that just comes from how I grew up on dirt racing without a wing and everything like that. But I totally get the wing being safer on the car and agree with you there, especially the speeds that we're running at some of these tracks outdoor. But indoor, I don't think it would work because I think honestly, people bang so much that I think you'd hook wings together and just rip them off. Because I know in the slingshot stuff, you go through the corners sometimes indoor in the slingshot and you bend your sail panel straight up and down because you lean on somebody so hard that it just bends that. So I think the wings would get ripped off and actually cause more problems indoor, and plus you're not moving fast enough to make them make any sort of difference.
Yeah, I
But
agree with that.
the wing, just running the wing outdoors, is a different feeling. You feel the air a lot more. You feel the car get upset when you follow too close behind somebody at some place like Waterford. And yesterday, I don't know what was going on. It felt like I could feel the wind blowing. Like if the wind changed directions, I could feel it move the car while I was going down the straightaway.
Yeah, I feel that sometimes too. And while that does happen, it's just because the track, right by the ocean, the track is basically up on a hill. So it just always tends to be, and I'm no meteorologist, I can't answer the questions for you, but it just always seems to be windier at Wall. And I live 10 minutes away, and it's always windier at the track than it is my house. Um, but no, I definitely hear you on the wing. And I think, listen, like, sure, like it would be, it. I've driven the cars without the wing. I think they're fun without the wing too. Like I don't, from a performance standpoint, I don't really have a preference one way or the other. I'll drive whatever you give me. But I just think a lot of stuff that you're saying before, I think it's really more so from a safety standpoint. And for all the reasons that you said, I 100% agree with you across the board on indoor. It could never work. But for outdoor, and especially at some of these bigger tracks we run at, like, I can't imagine. And some organizations do, but I really can't imagine running at some of these tracks without it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's a little they're fast cars, but I mean, wouldn't stop me. I mean, we run big tracks without the wings in the micro, and that is even more chaotic. So because you're purposely going sideways around there.
Like
I was trying to,
Linda's, and you're
yeah.
cooking at Linda's.
So I mean, what you've been in the TQ a couple years now? Do you have plans to try and make it in any big car stuff, or what would you like to see yourself run?
I would run anything that is offered to me. I'd be more than happy to try and run something else. So if you need a driver to run your 600, I'm your guy. But you're talking about Linda's. But no, but on a serious note, no, like you said, it's just really for me. I just always wanted to race. It didn't matter what it was. If I was racing a 4-cylinder, I'd make the most of it, right? So but I definitely have a home with TQ Racing. I'm not really looking to go anywhere, but I think that if any opportunity was presented to me, like I would certainly jump on it because I do want to see what else I'm capable of, and I'd like to test my talents in other types of cars. I mean, even just to get a feel, like in a practice session. But definitely, I love modifieds. I love asphalt modifieds.
Yeah, me
That would,
too.
those would be awesome to have an opportunity to run laps in. I'm not real. I think like it would. I know I just mentioned like a 4-cylinder like as a joke. Like I really have no interest in running like a 4-cylinder or like a factory stock.
Front wheel drive, baby. Let's
I mean,
go.
it would be cool, man. Our buddy, like we've always talked about like how cool it'd be that whether it's like a factory stock or like get like a bunch of 4-cylinders and just like go like to New Egypt and just like bang the crap out of each other or something. But definitely, I'd love to run a modified one day. My teammate Joey, he runs a NEMA Lights right now. I would love to run a full size midget. That would be cool. I really like open wheel racing. But I'd run anything. I mean, hell, if someone had a late model, I would give those a shot. I think my ultimate, like, I'd love to run a stock car at one point. As much of a joke as the ARCA series is right now, I think that would be, my background, because like, growing up asphalt and, local short track scene, but definitely, heavy NASCAR influence from my dad. And growing up and going to races and everything else, like I think we go to Daytona 500 every year. That's like our annual trip. I think that would kind of be like the ultimate for me if I was able to run like a competitive stock car like at Daytona, so like in that ARCA race, and I would have to probably take the biggest insurance policy of my life to run an ARCA car at Daytona, but not because of me, but because of everybody else. So
just hammer down, bro.
man, I listen. If I would have hit the billion, mega millions, whatever it was a couple weeks ago, I could have done more than that. But
if I
but
hit
no,
that, everybody
I mean,
have race cars, man.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would have fielded TQs for everyone.
Yeah.
But no, I would definitely. I am 100% interested, and I'd love to run on dirt too. And that was brought up to me a lot when I was speaking with people and speaking with people in the industry just when I was coming up, and everyone recommended to me, to get a feel like to run dirt. And I never had that opportunity, but I'm not opposed to it. So like. I would love to run a dirt car one day, just anywhere again, just to run laps. Like I just want to run something and run something different. I'm not really opposed to dirt racing either. It's just like my path of just how things just naturally happen for me. I've just always kind of had a little bit of that more of an asphalt background, but I definitely appreciate dirt racing. I would not be opposed if an opportunity came up to me in a safe and competitive car to turn laps in, potentially race. So. But we'll see. But I think for right now, I mean, the focus is TQs for sure. We won a championship this year, want to win it again next year, want to win more races. I want to win at a track that's not at Wall Stadium for sure. That's a big. I mean, all my wins are at Wall. I want to win at a. I mean, I finished second at Bethel before. I finished second at Evergreen. And I think my best finish at Waterford is third or fourth, like twice. So I definitely want to run, and win at one of these other tracks. I don't want people to think I'm like a one-track wonder, but I got some goals on my, I got some boxes I still need to check off. Some are more realistic than others, but like I said, focus is TQs. But if there was ever an opportunity to run something else, I'd be more than willing and excited to take on a challenge and see how I could do.
Yeah, man. I mean, come on down to Hamlin Speedway, and maybe Hervé will bust out the old slingshot. You still got the slingshot, right? Bring the slingshot and the micro, because that's a competitive car. I mean, I'd always assume that your slingshot's always competitive.
Just
get them in there, man.
Talk to me about the slingshots on dirt compared to indoors, because every time I watch a slingshot race at Atlantic City, it just does not look enjoyable. Like, it just looks miserable. Like I talked to Del Campo a little bit about it, like when he, because he's won and some of his races, and that could, listen, Nick's awesome, but he's a freaking twig, man. Like, and he's literally talking about like how his arms are falling off of him. I'm just like, it just doesn't sound fun. And then like, you're basically, once they get the track locked down and with the syrup, you're basically jumping over ruts like a dirt track. Like, it's just, I don't know. Try to sell me on this slingshot, because nothing looks enjoyable about driving a slingshot.
First of all, it's the track. The track, like, you got to go on a dirt track, and Hamlin's been super smooth. I mean, Randy's been doing a good job making it really smooth, but Hamlin's probably the best place. I mean, there's two different corners. There's a tighter corner and a kind of big sweeping one. In my opinion, from watching them over the last 5 years, I have only driven them a handful of times, and I'm like 250 pounds, so I'm not really the best as far as that. But like, they have like no suspension. Kyle,
yeah,
tell him.
Outdoor, you just bounce. The suspension doesn't do too much for you, but you get used to it, and it kind of makes the racing better because you're bouncing around so much that it lets people get runs if they run in the right spot. The indoor stuff, I don't even know how to describe it. I think you'd have fun with it. It's something else, man. I mean, if you go back and watch when I first started running indoor, I spent an entire race at Trenton on 2 wheels. I left the left sides at home, and I almost won that race. But I don't know how to describe it. If your car is on, you go into the corner and you don't move the steering wheel, it goes straight around the corner and just takes off. And it is like the most satisfying thing in the world when your car is on in an indoor race. When it's off and you start wheel hopping and you're bouncing or you're on 2 wheels, it is so hateful to drive, and there's nothing you can do in the car to make it any better if you miss the setup. Right. So, and the way they've been prepping the track the last couple of years. So I don't know if I told you this. Last year at AC practice day, I was awful on the slicks, and I am bouncing, and I cannot get this bounce to go away. I pulled all the slicks off and threw dirt tires on and ran like 9/10 quicker than the field on dirt tires. And the next day I watched everybody scrambling to try and find any dirt tires they could, because the dirt tires just had so much more give to the sidewall that they stuck on the new prep that they're putting down. So,
and there's not a rule with that. Like, there's not. They don't have a tire rule like with compounds with slingshots. It's kind of like run what you brung for that.
We have 3 right rears, and there's only 2 types of. Well, there's 3 types of wheels. So all the right rears are aluminum wheels. There's a wide and a narrow steel wheel that you can run on the front, and then you usually run a narrow to make stagger on the left rear. But as far as the tire rule, you're allowed to just run whatever tires you have. So there's just the dirt tires are all the same pretty much. There's a sawtooth, which is, I mean, they're all golf cart tires. The sawtooth is what you'd most commonly see on any golf cart that you look at, with the zigzaggy tread pattern.
It's sick.
They're super heavy. They're harder. That's our like pavement tire. And then there is an actual like racing slick that I absolutely despise. I think it is a terrible tire, honestly, that we usually run indoor. It's like a balloon, and it's super awkward. It's a weird shape, and it's a weird compound. But I mean, as far as that, you're not allowed to do anything to the tires. So you just kind of grind them and run them, and they don't say anything. You can run whatever you want indoor, and if you can make it work, you make it work.
Man, I've been trying this whole time to find a TQ ride. Maybe I will try to find a slingshot ride for Atlantic City. We'll see. You've almost convinced me, man. Like that sounds
Come
like a lot of
on.
fun. And like I would listen. Like I'm just saying. Like I
No.
think more races that I focused on. I've seen the whole everything else that you said that sucks. It's just like the wheel hopping and everything else. But I could imagine the satisfying like slot car feeling of these things. When you get hooked up. But no, I would definitely. I'd give it a chance. Like I said. I'd run anything. Like hell, I'd run a go-kart out in dirt or something like that too. Or I'd run like a champ kart or something. I don't really have much of a preference. Like I said, my journey just kind of naturally took me to TQs, and that's just where my home has been. And while I'm here, I'm just trying to make the absolute most of it for myself
Sure.
and everyone else involved too. But listen, man, somebody, give them my number. Let's
Yeah,
let's,
yeah.
let's
Look,
put a deal
I'm
together.
telling you, come to Hamlin. Curve will run his micro, and you can run his slingshot, and then
right.
maybe you guys can swap it up. I don't care. It'll be great.
All
And
right.
I can get an interview, and it'll be great.
Yeah, there you go. More content for
See,
the channel.
perfect. Yeah, I'm just looking out for me, and
But
you.
yeah, Kyle, I know you're the VP of the club and everything, and I know you're gonna run for president next year with the ATQ MRA. Why don't you talk a little bit about how you came to that position?
Yeah, I mean, it's just another one of those things where I think it's my passion for this has kind of taken me this far, and I mentioned before, like being teammates in the past for Buddy Slode, and who is the president, and just working alongside of him, and him being a positive influence. So, I think it's just we're kind of at the point where Buddy's been doing this for a long time, and he's done a great job for the series, and I just think he's ready to. I mean, listen, it's a demanding thing, having to work on schedules and communication and everything else. And I think just from my time in the series, I just kind of started naturally helping him along with a lot of that stuff. Like the behind the scenes and the communication. Where I've been doing a lot of stuff where it's been a very, very good working relationship, or at least I feel, as a president and a VP. But I think this year, I mean, based on conversations that him and I have had, I think he would be open to the transition. But that's definitely something where him and I will have those discussions, before we have the general rules meeting coming up in January, just to make sure we're all on the same page, because I just want to make sure that, I'm not taking anything away from Buddy or his team, what they're trying to accomplish for the club. Like I want this to be a very smooth transition if it were to happen. So it's kind of like yes, like I would love, I would love to take on the challenge. I'd love to invest further into this organization. And again, just like I said before, I want to make it I want to get the most out of it for myself, but also everyone else involved for as long as I'm here. So I think it would be a great honor to take on that position. But it's certainly something I'd want to make sure that he would be, ready for that transition as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally understand. So, Ron, you got any other thoughts?
I don't know. These things are crazy. If you were because like I got to drive a micro for like 5 laps last season because the car kept the throttle was sticking and stuff. But I mean
Well, that's not good.
well, yeah.
At least
The
it
car
didn't go through the fence.
the car owner was running it and I was running it. When he was in his hot laps, the steering went like the yoke that connects it came off and then his throttle stuck. So that was just a wild night. But getting to run a couple laps in it was ridiculous. So I can't even imagine the power these things have. Plus, they're lower to the ground and they are running slick. So you must be pulling some serious G's.
Yeah, Ron.
like
Yesterday,
serious.
when I pulled out onto the track, I don't know why. I just like stomped on the gas. I spun the tires halfway down the straightaway, and when it finally hooked up, it put me back in the seat. And I'm like,
Whoa.
oh yeah, this is significantly faster than the micro. It's just a different feeling because the
Really?
micro is like all power, but it's a lot of wheel spin, and you're pitching the car in there sideways, and that's a totally different feeling. This is like you're going slower through the corner, but as soon as you get on throttle, just coming out of the corner, you can spin the tires, and it just hooks up and takes off. It's just a different feeling of the G-force. The micro is a lot of side G-force. The TQ is a lot of, it's putting you back in the seat hard. It is so much fun to drive.
I would love to try it. to be honest.
I love hearing stuff like that too. Now you tell me, like in the dirt community, like particularly like with micros, because what micros are to dirt is what TQs are to asphalt. That's kind of how I look at it. And
Yeah.
a lot of people come to me and are like, oh, like they're go karts. They look like go karts, and I'm like, all right, well then you get in there, and run one. And it's like man, like these things are the real deal. And it's like, I mean, damn, like we ran at Evergreen this year, and
Goodness.
and we were there the same day as the tour modifieds, and we're literally ripping around there a full second faster than the tour mods. Like our cars
Jeez.
are not our cars are not a joke. And I think the size is very deceiving, like not to racers, but just like to people who are watching, like on the outside looking in. But I mean, do you deal with that type of BS like in the dirt community too? Like someone sees a micro and they just think it's a glorified dirt car, or do they actually like respect it for what it is?
Depends.
I don't know. It depends where you're at. A lot of the
Yeah.
tracks we go to, the micros are the show, whereas the
Yeah.
TQs always feel like we're a support division. I mean, even when we were up at Waterford, we were running the same lap times as some of the Nemas, and I had people looking at the car like, "What is that?" And I wasn't. I always end up not pitted with any of the other people in the club, so I'm off in no man's land by myself. With all the midgets, or yesterday I had a late model guy next to me, and him and all his friends are looking at my car like, dude, this thing is insane. But no, I mean, sometimes you get the same feel with the micros where people are looking down on it a little bit, but micros are they're probably the biggest division other than go-karts, across the country right now.
It's deceiving when you watch a video, because I video all the features at Hamlin Speedway. So all 6 divisions I do every single week for the last 2-3 years, and I show people, I'm like, look at these cars, are so sick, like look at these micros, and I'm like, it's a 600cc, like I'm telling them all this stuff about it, and like when you're looking from the tower down, it doesn't look like they're going as fast as they are, and it doesn't look like you're like, oh, they're kind of throwing it in there, but like when you're in the driver's seat and you smash that gas to the floor and that thing winds up, like it's like I had a guy come down to do video stuff, and I was like, all right, go stand over by the that Kyle, where the fence ends, right, going into turn 1 where the exit to the track is. I was like, all right, set up right there and watch these guys enter the turn. Just like they're pitching it sideways at the flag stand.
Oh yeah,
at the flagger
100%.
stand, and then you're just like, because you have to be in the gas like almost all the time. Like that's what I didn't understand. I from the bigger cars, like you drive it in fast and you lift and let the weight roll, and then you ease back into the throttle. These things, you pitch it sideways and you just better get back on the gas, and I didn't, and I looped it twice. But
yeah,
you really got to be on it, man.
Kyle,
wild.
there have been times that I've run the micro, like when I ran Lou's car at Greenwood Valley. They're like, you're not driving it hard enough, drive it in harder. And I'm like, dude, I'm already not lifting, how much harder can I drive it? I was pitching this thing in as hard as I could. I mean, go down, come to the corner, yank the wheel left and yank it all the way back to the right, never take my right foot off the ground. I was on the limiter coming off the corner. That's how hard you're driving these dirt cars through the corners.
That's awesome. Like that sounds like so much fun. It's funny, like when I was coming up, like that's what a lot of people told me too, and it made sense. They're always like, the harder, even with a TQ, like the harder you drive a TQ, like the better it's going to handle.
Yeah.
But no, I would love to just like do that and like hang it out. Like I think that's what makes. I know you your car wasn't ready yet by the time we were there earlier in the season, but like Mahoning, I think Mahoning is a track that you would really enjoy in a TQ. I think there would be some similarities there, or some things that you'd feel would be relative to dirt. Because that track's just a complete circle, and Evergreen almost feels like that too. It does have straightaways, but Mahoning is literally a circle, and you're basically, it's like a skid pad. Like you're just sliding around on the right rear the whole way around. And it's fun. I admittedly, like, I mentioned this in another interview, but like that is like my Achilles heel, that track. I enjoy it. It's a challenge. Like it's fun for me. Like I love turning laps on Mahoning, but it's just so hard to set up a pass, because like you really can't get a run on someone, like it's one of those things where like the feature is 25 laps. It takes you 5 laps just to build up enough momentum on someone to try to pass them. So but no, I think just from like a handling standpoint, Zach Bird, he was our rookie of the year this year. And when he ran Mahoney, because he has a big dirt background too. Like I told him, I said he would like it, and I think he did. I think his arms kind of fell off a little bit. I think he fell out of the seat, but no, but like before all that, I think just from like some similarities to dirt. But I just like to me like that just sounds so much fun, man. Like I'd love to, like I said, run a dirt car or something like that, and just be able to experience that and hang it out. Like I do watch a lot of videos from like Hamlin. It looks like down south, because you talked about, the 600s kind of being, which I see it, a very fast growing division. Like, the last couple of years, it seems like it's really taken off in the Southeast, especially like at Millbridge and just, watching those guys. I've been to Millbridge before, but I was before 600s were there. But, just to see those guys just absolutely ripping the lip, right?
Yes,
just
sir.
pushing, and all the way up against that wall, just hanging it out. I said the thing. Yep. Do I get brownie points now?
Yeah.
So did I just earn that right at Hamlin by saying
Yeah.
so? Oh my God. But seriously though, like it is a very fast growing division, and they look like a lot of fun, and dirt's definitely on the upswing. I think just especially from a cost standpoint. We're doing everything we can on our side, on the asphalt side, for cost, and I don't really know. I mean, Kyle, you'd be better with that. Not that I want to get like into a whole debate with costs and everything else, but but even too, like on the dirt side, like it's just a totally different world. Like you guys don't have 20 days of practice. We do. For you to show up in your dirt 600 somewhere and have 2 days of practice for like the biggest race of the year, like that just sounds like completely like uncultured on the dirt side.
Yeah,
so.
you'd be paying major bucks, major dollar bills to do that.
I'm honestly, the more practice I have, the more time I have to overthink it. Everybody's telling me I got to practice with the TQs, and I'm like, dude, just give me 2 laps in practice and then send me out there and I'll figure it out. Like that's what I've been doing my whole life.
Yeah.
Hell, when I was younger in the quarter midgets, I ran for so many years I didn't even practice anymore. I don't think for the last 6 years that I was in quarter midgets I ran practice. I would just go out in the race and race. There was no point in practicing. What am I going to burn up my tires?
Yeah, I think with our cars, like it's one of those things to where when you get to a point of where the car is really balanced, like even with us running different tracks, like you shouldn't be throwing the kitchen sink, every time you go from like a Wall to a Waterford to an Evergreen. I mean, really the biggest thing is just going to be stagger and gear, and then you're going to adjust a little bit from there, shocks and springs, but you really shouldn't be doing anything too crazy to these cars, and it's just finding, I think for you, it like right now, like it's not as much of you trying to get comfortable in the car. I think it's just getting the car comfortable to being outdoors, because that car is built to being indoors right now. And I think that's where the laps are crucial to you. But once you get it hooked up, like, you're talking about like how it's, you feel like you're swatting flies down the straightaway like that. That's not normal. That shouldn't be.
It's uncomfortable.
But yeah, I'm sure. But once you figure that out and you find the proper balance for the car, that's when you're going to have the opportunity to really get, your laps in for sure and get comfortable. And then by that point, practice isn't going to be the biggest thing. And I mean, most of the tracks that we go out, which I know is still more than a lot of dirt tracks, like the standard is like you show up, you get 2 rounds, you get your heat, and then you run your features. So,
yep. But hey, I think we're winding down a little bit here. So why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on social media and check out the club. And also, if there's anybody you'd like to thank, go ahead. You have the floor.
Oh man, I got the floor. Well, this is usually where I screw something up, and and it's very good. So the timing of this is great because I just pulled up my phone so I could look at my social media, so I know what my username is because I forget. And I just saw that Mahomes got a touchdown for me on my fantasy. So
let's go, best quarterback of the. He's the GOAT. He's gonna be the GOAT. My opinion.
I'm a bit. Well, we can't talk about football on a racing podcast.
Oh, okay. Sorry. But I'll talk about sports all day. Let's go.
But I am right now until now for the next couple hours. I hope Mahomes throws about 5 more touchdown passes because I need every point I could get. So, but no, Instagram. I try to post a lot of pictures. Again, I don't really have any like racing accounts. It's all just my personal stuff. But K_Taraska is my Instagram. You can look me up, Kyle Taraska, on Facebook. On my page, I add just about anybody unless you look really sketchy. So that I kind of run my
That's
face.
you, Ron.
Yeah,
That's
I kind
me.
of run.
That's
I
me.
kind of run my Facebook page, kind of like my racing page. I think that's where the most people who I am either friends with or follow me. I think that's where most of the interest of my racing life persists of is on Facebook. So I work hard to promote myself. ATQMRA, TQ Midgets. I think it's ATQMRA Midgets is our series Facebook page. If you are interested in TQ Midget Racing, particularly outdoors, that is the place for you would want to follow for announcements. Ron had the website up before, looking at every car other than mine,
Of course.
atqmra.com. So you can look at that. But you could check. There's a lot of good information there. But definitely, I mean, listen, like we're an organization with almost 70 years of racing history. I mentioned this before, or the other day to someone, but I think NASCAR is going to be celebrating 75 years next year. So just to put it in perspective a little bit, there is a lot of history to this. I am 90%, this is on the website. So I am 90% sure that I believe Mario Andretti actually got his start running
Yeah.
TQs at Pinebrook, which is really cool. So there's a lot of history in organization. We're working hard to keep it going. There's a lot of positives with it. We are, and I hope Kyle could attest to this, but, we are a welcoming organization. We work very hard to make sure that everyone is competitive as possible.
Absolutely.
Nothing would make me happier than, like what we talked about at the beginning of the show, is Kyle and I getting pissed off at each other over a racing incident, sometime in the near future. So the more competitive cars we have, the better. And we have a lot of competitive cars. I mean, I think, we're expecting a full field, for Turkey Derby, and I feel like, for next week, and I think easily I could probably, if we sat down and really went through like an entry list, there's probably at least 12, half of that field that has a realistic chance to show up and win. And I think there's a lot of other guys that could run competitive as well. So as for my team, Personal Comfort, they are my sponsor. Check them out, Personal Comfort Mattress. They are an air mattress company. They have a great product. I have Personal Comfort bed at home. I have Personal Comfort pillows. They sent me pillows for winning the championship, which is one of the coolest
Nice.
gifts I ever got.
That's the best.
How awesome is that,
That is
right? Like,
amazing.
but so Personal Comfort is actually a company that is it's ran by racers, is what they don't advertise it that way, but Scott Stenzel, who is one of my buddies, but he is a former ARCA before it really went to crap, and Camping World Truck Series driver, and he is really one of the bigger inspirations for me to get involved in racing and really push myself to where I've gotten to today, so to be able to, and he, their company helps me out with some sponsorship, but to be able to represent Personal Comfort in a personal, or in a professional way, man, that's a little bit of a tongue twister, professional, Personal Comfort. So, but no, they have great beds. If anyone is looking for a bed, you could find me on one of my social media accounts that I just called out, and please reach out. I'd be more than happy to give you the Kyle Taraska Championship hookup. So I don't
Yes,
think you're gonna get
sir.
free. I don't think you're gonna get free pillows, but I could definitely I could help you out a little bit. So we're all friends and family here, right? If you get what I'm saying. But
Yes, sir.
no, Personal Comfort, they're a great partner. Rhino Classifieds, they are another great partner. They're a sponsor of our series. They are a sponsor of me. They did a very awesome grassroots campaign this year where they gave away it was $2,000 a week, and it was
Wow.
$1,000 based on votes, $1,000 based on who Rhino felt like was most qualified, who promoted them. But they did a 50, or they like a 30-week thing, and it was like
Whew.
60 grand in sponsorship they gave out this year through all their partners. So
That's amazing.
check out Rhino Classifieds. They are a classifieds page from anything from street vehicles to racing cars to parts and everywhere else in between. They do a lot of custom stuff too, like a lot of, like, when you see like like car auctions, or like when they auction like badass cars out for charity, like
Yeah.
it's the real deal, man. I've been to their shop down in, it's actually near Tampa, but they are, Jim and everyone over there at Rhino, they're fantastic. Natural Designs, Timmy Solomito, he oversees. He's done my merchandise, but most importantly, he has done the last 2 wraps on the car. So the Chick-fil-A car that you saw before, where we did that Bobby Allison tribute, who was my dad's first favorite driver. So that kind of
Nice.
that all kind of tied in. So that was really cool. But the beautiful personal comfort car that we ran to our championship this year, the chrome numbers and that blue and teal, like it definitely sticks out, and really proud of how that looks. And very important. I feel like it's very important to make sure that if you want to be looked at as a professional, you need to represent yourself professionally. And I don't want people to think like, oh, he's just a Facebook racer. I don't like to think I am. People may have that judgment, but I want to make sure, obviously speed comes first, right?
Yeah.
Fancy wraps and designs, they don't buy you, hundreds and tenths of a second. But I do think it is important that if you want to be taken seriously, you need to show up in a serious manner as soon as you load off on a trailer, just not on speed, but on looks too. So Natural Designs, they do a phenomenal job as well. Our series sponsors, Hoosier Tire, Mid-Atlantic, VP Racing Fuels, they are huge advocates for our organization, and I'm hoping to add on, we are hoping we could add on more sponsorship to the series next year to help it to continue to grow. But and I mentioned everyone before, but just one more last shout out to Russ Bailey, Lenny Boyd, Donna Boyd, Frank Vogel, John Cerny, my wife Megan. Thank you, and my teammate Joey and his girlfriend Colleen. I think I just got Joey in trouble because Colleen always says that Joey never mentions her enough. So there we are.
There we
There's the
go.
right
I
car.
had to.
It took.
I had to
It,
find it.
it only took an hour, but there is the most beautiful car that you will ever see in the ATQMRA. Sorry, Kyle. And then there is my teammate, Joey Bailey, in the background. And that's great that I am ahead of him in this picture. So I will gloat about that there. But no, we got a really good team. And listen, like, these are things I've mentioned before as well. I'm on the record for. But to be able to be teammates to Joey, he has single-handedly made me a better driver, among many other people who race in the organization as well. But certainly, and then racing for his dad, Russ, Lenny, racing out of the Boyd Speed Shop and racing out of Lenny Boyd's garage, that this is an opportunity that I will never, ever, ever take for granted. It's extremely humbling, and especially for someone like myself who has a very untraditional path to getting into racing, and not so much racing itself, but physically driving and driving a car. There was once upon a time where I just wanted to be out there just to say I did it. And then to have the success that we have accomplished together, it is more than I could have ever dreamed. And so that's why, we had those conversations before. We were like, what else do you want to drive? Like, man, I don't know. Like, I definitely would, again, take on any opportunity. I feel like there's still more in this chapter of my life to write. But I also know, which I don't want it to, but if it ended today, I've accomplished way more than I ever thought I would, and I will always look back and be thankful for that. So, a lot of good stuff on our end, but very excited to race with Kyle here next Saturday, Turkey Derby. Want to get I got one wreath back in 2020. Would love to get another one. This is our biggest race of the year. I know it's not a points race, but this is kind of like, I feel like our little like Daytona 500, Indy 500, this event. So really excited to take part of it. Turkey Derby is always a special time. Thanksgiving's a special weekend, and really excited to, I don't think we had the practice that we wanted this weekend. Not, I don't think I was swatting flies like Kyle was, but I think we may be a little bit better than that. But no, fam, I'm not trying to take a dig there, but no, I don't think we had the practice that we were looking for. But I also think it was kind of one of those things where the stopwatch, just with track conditions and everything else and temperatures, I don't think the stopwatch is really the full story. To telling the full story of this weekend. And there's some guys that put up some good laps, and they're very excited about that, as they should be. But I think just, if you just look at Speed Hive or our lap times, I think we're kind of entering not as much as like an underdog, but I think people are looking at us like, oh, did they lose their edge? Well, we didn't. So Everyone could sit back and enjoy their lap times for the next 7 days, but we'll be there when it counts on Saturday. I can promise you that.
Well, I'll wave to you as you lap me.
I promise I won't flip you off because I want to represent personal comfort in a professional
In a
way.
professional
So,
way. Well,
that's
Kyle,
right.
I really appreciate you being on, and man, this is actually super fun, educational, everything. But I think this might have been our best show yet. It's super fun. Like, I just enjoyed it. I really appreciate you coming on, and just especially when we have someone on here that can kick Kyle's butt at racing. That's always a plus.
Well, hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's not forever. Listen, I mean,
Oh no,
Kyle's got a really good car. Listen, he's got a really good car, and but it's just going to take some time to get that, not the driver, but the car adapted to the outdoor world. But no, but
yeah,
thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I know it's a little bit unconventional to have an asphalt guy. I think Kyle said I'm your first asphalt driver on Rip the Lip. So if we're ripping anything on pavement, it's usually not a good thing. But no, but seriously, this was a lot. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm looking forward to hopefully being back on one day. Hopefully, again, Kyle and I will get into some fights on the racetrack, and then we could talk about them here.
yeah.
But definitely excited to potentially see you guys at Hamlin maybe next summer.
That would be fantastic.
Yes, sir.
And once you win your first ARCA race, whenever you get in there, then we'll have you back on for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't. Yeah.
Definitely.
But
it's going to be a long time before that. But no, but thank you guys. This was fun.
This is great.
Yep,
All right.
you.
Well, thank you everyone who watched for the hour here, and I really appreciate everyone tuning in and just watching and hanging out with us. Thank you for MCM Contracting for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate those guys, and really the dedication that they've kind of put forth to the show, and hopefully it lasts a long time and we can make something truly great out of this. So that's the plan. We want to talk to as many drivers as possible from many different divisions. Now it's mainly dirt track, obviously, but I'm not opposed to having any kind of race car driver, and if I can learn something about new race cars like I did tonight, that's fantastic. So really appreciate both Kyles taking time out of their day to come and chat. We're live every Sunday, 8 p.m. Next week we have AJ Albreda as a slingshot driver, so we get to talk about slingshot. So if you want to tune in next week, Kyle, then you can ask some questions to another slingshot driver and see what